Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. We're here with the retro board gamer, Asdruval Cifuentes. How are you doing?
Good. I see that it just says retro gamer. I guess I didn't change that.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Well, for those of you who do not know, Asdruval has been a contributor on the Dice Tower. I'm a big fan of the Dice Tower. As much as I'm into comic books, I'm also into board games. And you've had a segment since, what was it on?
I think I debuted in 2015. So what, 8, 9 years ago, I think.
Yes, and your specialty was like old school board games, right? Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah, the retro thing, but as you can see behind me, I also play modern, up to date board games also.
So I know somebody's going to ask this because I mostly do comic book videos. First off, are you into comic books at all, or just?
Growing up, I was into comic books. Back when you really didn't let anybody know you collected comic books because, I don't like to use the term nerd or geek, but back then, you got ridiculed for collecting comic books.
Yeah, I told that story a few times. I worked at a comic book store, and a lot of times people would hide their comics. There was one specific girl that would come in, and then she would ask to use the bathroom. Every time she came in, she asked, and then I noticed that she didn't have any comics in her hand. She was literally going in the bathroom, taking off her shirt, sticking the comic books in the shirt, tucking everything, and leave. That's how it was like we were drug dealers or something. Like
exactly. I believe. The comic books, I think I moved one time and I stuck all my comic books in my mother's garage. And I had a lot of them from, the 70s, 80s, and 90s, probably into the early 2000s. And years later, I went back to my mother's house and to find out that she cleaned out the garage and literally threw them all away, literally.
I've heard that story so many times, and every time it feels like a punch to the stomach.
Right, and then it just, I had a lot of comic books, and it's just, I just said, okay, well, forget it. I guess I'm out of the comic book thing.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, my father had the same story. He went to the Navy, and when he came back from the Navy, my parents, his grandparents, my grandparents, his parents had moved. And he was just like, well, where's the comics? And, my grandfather was like, yeah, that was kid stuff. But he claims, and he was the age that he had like Captain Marvel #1, Shazam, Superman #1. And he was telling me the stories of these old, and I'm like, oh my God, Dad, Pop threw away millions of dollars worth of comic books.
Yeah, I had a bunch of them when they were coming out with like the X-Men #1 when there was like 4 or 5 different variant covers. Yeah, I had like 3 or 4 copies of like each cover. I had the Death of Superman, the one in the black bag. Yeah. I had the Spawn #1, a couple dozen of those. Yeah. Just all those. Yeah, and then now they're all gone.
I remember. Okay, so first off, let me just say to my audience who may not know anything about board games, I'm a big board game. I've been into board games, 20, 30 years, but I've always played board games, but I got into the like hardcore, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. And, but you've always been playing board games, and you like do a segment of old school retro style board games.
Right. Now, I grew up very poor, so most of my board games came from the secondhand store, the Goodwill, your Goodwills and your secondhand store. So there were always missing pieces, and the instructions were never there. So, me and my brother and my sister had to kind of like make our own rules. So, fast forward years later, and I said, let's really dive into finding these games that I used to play and seeing if I can play correctly. And that's when it kind of re-sparked my foray back into retro boarding, because I was I think I stopped playing them when I was, I don't know, 15 or 16. But then when I got in my early 20s, then I said, okay, let's start looking for these, and that's when I started amassing my collection again.
How many of the games did you actually play correctly?
None. we were way wrong. Way wrong.
You're playing Parcheesi and the characters break out lightsabers.
Yeah, it was mildly interesting, but it was every time it's like way wrong.
That's funny. I remember we played a Hero Quest as kids, and we didn't know what we were doing. Just characters moving across the boards. Whatever. Every character could cast spells because that's cool.
Right.
And then we played with the actual rules, and we were like, "Holy mackerel! This not a bad game." So I got to ask you then. You must have played Monopoly.
Oh yes, and I hate it.
It's funny because I was running a board game group over in Queens before I moved out here to Suffolk, and we were all sitting around going, I hate Monopoly, you hate Monopoly, we all hate Monopoly. And that's like the new thing when everybody's like, you're into board games like Monopoly, but we've all realized that we've never played it by the actual legit rules.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, we even had the rules to Monopoly, but for whatever reason, we didn't play it the way that it was supposed to be played.
Right.
And then I remember years back, I said, okay, we're going to sit down and we're going to actually play the way the rules are printed.
Right.
And even the way the rules are printed, it's not for what it is. The game is just way too long.
Right. It's not the best game, but if you play by the house rules, free parking is just a spot. Because I realized if every time we go to free parking, we get this. We're just infusing cash into the system, which is designed to make you. So we're just making the game go longer and prolonging the torture. It's a 2-hour game, like with 4 people. If you play by house rules, and the house strategy, you can't just. There's only 28 houses. There's only like 12 hotels. You can't put a hotel on the board unless you physically have enough houses. And then I've learned if you just buy 4 houses on each, nobody could buy a hotel.
Right, and I think when I was playing as a younger kid, we had a couple of Monopoly sets put together, so it had more houses and more hotels. Right. So the board was just littered with houses and hotels.
Yeah, houses, hotels on hotels.
Right, exactly.
And then we were all willing to play until somebody hit that what is it? 10% or 200. And then everybody just pays 200, but you always have that one guy who would sit there and math out how much he legitimately. Oh, come on!
Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually ended it. Every end of Monopoly was just people just getting bored and giving up. There was it's just I'm done.
What about Risk?
I've played Risk before. Again, that's a game that takes a really long time, and if you get people that know what they're doing,
you're losing for 2 hours.
Exactly. But
you want to be a good sport, but you're like, you just beat me quick.
Yeah, they several reiterations of Risk later, they came out with like some variant rules. And I've played with secret mission Risk, where everybody gets a secret mission card, and if you fulfill that, you win the game. I played it that way, but the world domination, it's another game that just takes a really long time to play.
My favorite Risk was Risk 2220 or something like that. It's in the future. We have the nuke commander and the sky commander.
Right.
It gives like a winning condition. You don't have to just like dominate the whole board. So you could play a whole game in like 2 hours, which is, to me, that's fine for a board game.
Right, and another fun Risk is Risk Legacy.
Yeah, I was just that is now my favorite because it has the 4-point system. You just need 4 points to win. Oh my god, yeah. The problem is I've had 3 copies of the game because when I play for those of you people who don't know, a legacy game is you open up the game and it's usually just vanilla box rules game. But every time you play, you could unlock cards, you could unlock stickers and whatever. And so the rule changes. So Risk Legacy, by the time you play 15, 16 games, you have a unique board with unique rules on any. But I never make it to, and I want to play with the same 5 people. Getting 5 people to sit down and commit to a 5 game campaign is like herding cats, you know. So I got a copy for my nieces and nephews that I haven't opened in 7 years. I got a copy for my old game group that we disintegrated, and now I'm buying a new copy for my new game group. You know, let's hope that we actually play.
Right. I have several legacy games where I think I got Pandemic 1, Pandemic 2, which is like half played because again, it's getting those same people to come over, and it's difficult for that.
The farthest I've gotten, I think I'm 4 games into Charterstone with the same group, you know. But I got to cook dinner and invite them over, and you know, and you
gotta coax them in, you know.
Yeah, coax them in. It's 3 married couples, so like the wives are like, "Oh, this is nice. It's your turn." They don't care whatsoever. This is nice. They're talking about Hallmark movies, and I'm like, "It's your turn again." So, have you ever finished a legacy game?
I have not.
Yeah. I'm dying to. I even got Seafall, and I'm going to play it. I don't, you know, that's the one everybody hates, but I'm going to play it.
You know that everybody does hate that game, and I think you can pick it up for fairly dirt cheap.
$15.
Yeah,
with metal coins.
Yeah, I didn't think that it was that horrible. You know, I didn't finish it, but I didn't think it was a horrible game.
Well, that's the thing is, you know, again, we're talking about the Dice Tower. Dice Tower is a YouTube channel run by Tom Vassell. I've had Sam Healy on my channel, and Tom Vassell is going to come on the 22nd, so that should be fun. But they are a YouTube channel, and they review board games. And who would think that you could actually make a living doing that? Well, nobody did, and now Tom Vassell he's got like 7 or 8 employees. It's the number. If you're into board games, you check out the Dice Tower, and that's how I found out about that Asdruval. You had a segment where you talked about you know, older games from our youth, Payday and the Welcome Back Kotter game and fun games like that.
Yeah, there are a lot of board gaming channels out there, but the Dice Tower is the number one.
Yeah,
with the most viewers.
And I'm not. There's so many good ones too, but
right.
So I've been on the Dice Tower. I was about to say the cruise, but I went to the Dice Tower convention 4 or 5 times and met everybody. It is just so much fun. So hey Matt, Matt's one of my buddies, comic book buddy. Good to see you, Matt. I love a board game where I sit down and it tells me a story, like when you play in Risk. A week later, you're like, yeah, and then Asdruval came down out of Africa and he invaded over here and I held off and we fought back and nobody thought I was going to win and I was going to win. But then Frank came over. And you're not talking about rolling dice. You're talking about like a war campaign that you were in. I love that out of games. What about you?
For me personally, the allure of board gaming is immersing yourself, pretending to be somebody else, pretending to do something else, living in the Old West, fighting aliens on a planet. You know, that's the allure for me personally. And if a game can just be like an hour or a little over an hour, and the rules are fairly simple to teach, that's always a plus for me. It seems that my game groups are people that aren't really like hardcore gamers, so I'm the one that's got to be teaching the game. So so it has to be a very, you know, I like medium weight games.
Okay.
I do not play games that last hours and hours and have, you know, 20 pages of rules. That's not my thing. And maybe that's why I like the old retro games, because you can literally teach an old retro game in a couple of minutes and then everybody's up and running.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would be an example? Like what did you play in your last game group?
Right now I'm playing Return to Dark Tower by
That's awesome.
Restoration Games.
That is awesome. I did not think it was going to be so much fun. I have the original. I'm looking right at it right over here.
I have my original too.
Yeah, and it's funny because when my friends like, "Oh, you got that? We got to play." I'm like, "Yes, we do, but we have to play the original one first, so you could appreciate the second one." So I went on Amazon. I bought 4D batteries. I put it in, broke it out. It still works. We played the original Dark Tower.
Yeah, my keypad is running really, getting worn down. So I play maybe once a year.
Yeah, well,
just to preserve that keypad. But I hear that there's somebody like on eBay that fixes old towers. For
Luckily, I don't. Luckily, I keep looking at it like you can see.
Mine's is that way,
Luckily, mine is still good. I bought it when it came out, and like a kid, I left the batteries in it, and then I went to play it, and it was like icky exploded. You know what I mean? So I had to go on eBay and pay a pretty penny for a real good copy. So
yeah, I had a friend that had it because again, back then the game was pretty spendy back then.
Yeah.
And obviously my parents didn't buy it for me, but I had a friend that had a copy and we used to play it all the time. And then I bought mine's off of eBay, and again, I paid a pretty penny for it also.
It's still fun. It's one of the few games my wife likes, and then she just takes such delight in cursing me, like,
right. So I don't know if you knew this, but I also work for Restoration Games. I'm on their demo team. So I saw Dark Tower from its early stages come to what the game is today. So it was an interesting journey with them and how they developed this game.
Yeah, the new Dark Tower is awesome. It's so much fun. I guess I'm a stickler because I don't like electronic components in my game. I want my board games to be board games, and I want my video games to be. And I don't like when they meet. But the Dark Tower, it's got this electronic piece. You turn it around, you push the buttons, the computer takes care of stuff, and it is. And you get because it's cooperative now. So now you're rooting for your buddies and everything. You're like,
right.
Oh.
So yeah, I was in the same boat as you were. When they first said that it was going to be ran through an app, I was a little apprehensive, because I like to, not board games are board games and electronic stuff is electronic stuff.
Get off my lawn.
Exactly. But yeah, I was apprehensive at first, but then I love the game.
Yeah. So I have a worker. He was in a partner. He was in his late 60s and he retired, and he went. His mom passed away, and he knew I was into games, and he gave me a stack of old games. And it's funny because I was like, "Oh man, retro board gamer would love these." So I got the Barney Miller game. Have you? You must have that.
I have a Barney Miller game. Yeah.
Have you played it?
I have. Yeah.
I read the rules, and the rules actually it seems fun. I haven't played it yet. When I got a room full of games over here, and nobody wants to play Barney Miller. I played night a few times. Fu Manchu, the Fu Manchu from like the 1959 or something. I've never even seen that before. The sinking of the Titanic.
I have the sinking of the Titanic.
Yeah, you got to rescue the French maid. I'm sorry. If you play that game, you got to rescue the French maid. Everybody else, why can't I think of it? But there's of course Monopoly, Parcheesi, Scrabble and games like that. But I never heard of the Barney Miller game or the Fu Manchu's Hidden Horde. I'm looking at it right now. Have you?
Yeah, I've never heard of that one before. And there's always games that I've never even heard of, never even know they existed. There was tons of games out there back in the day. I've only kind of just scratched the surface with my small collection.
Well, I heard you say in one of your segments that you have like a storage unit filled with games.
I do. I stopped. I have in my house. It's or at my house, I should say, is just the stuff that my modern stuff, and then out in my garage, I have a retro stuff, and then in a storage facility, I have more retro stuff in there. So I said this before, but I stopped counting at about 200. I keep on getting this stuff. I keep finding this stuff, and I just don't want to know how many I have, because
multiple copies of the same game.
I have multiple copies of the same game, just for the sheer fact that some of them are incomplete.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them don't work. Some of the electronic parts don't work, so I got to get multiple copies. There's one, I believe, it's called. Gosh, I can't think of the name, but it's got it's like a cops and robbers game that's got a buzzer on it. That the buzzer, every copy that I find, the buzzer doesn't work, and I think I got like 6 copies of the same game that doesn't work.
The old school game that I'm looking for is, you must have it, is Worm Wrestle.
Is what?
Worm Wrestle. It's a worm.
Worm, like a worm.
Yeah, it looks like a wrestling ring, and then there's just like a metal rotating pin that spins around, and it's magnetic, and you have these little metal wavy worms, and one of them's red, one of them's blue, and you put them in there, and you just turn it on, and you do absolutely nothing but just cheer on your worm. They just get flung out, and the last worm, you have no agency, no. But I love this as a kid. We were like, yeah, it was like kid gambling. It comes with fake money, and you bet.
Yeah, see, so that's a perfect example. I've never heard of that game before in my life.
I've seen it on eBay for like $400, and then it says doesn't work.
Doesn't the famous eBay doesn't work, Yeah. Or I like it when eBay says, well, we don't know if it works. Well, freaking try it out, okay?
Oh, you work for Restoration Games. There you go. See if they can restore a Worm Wrestle. Restoration.
Yeah, I have very little input. I basically just do their work on their demo team, basically.
You'd appreciate this.
Oh yeah,
I got this for a steal on eBay, complete.
I bought mine at Toys R Us back in the day.
Oh, that beats me.
But yes, it's a very, very expensive game to get your hands on nowadays.
And when you set it up, so for those of you who don't know, Queen's Gambit, they don't make it anymore, I think, because of like royalties or whatever, or intellectual property rather. But you're playing the last of the sequel movie. So there's 3 boards. So you got to have Jar Jar Binks fight the whatever. You got to have Princess Amidala make it to this room, and then you got to have Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi fighting Darth Maul, and you got to manage them both, and it comes with like 1 billion pieces. It's I don't know, pretty penny. I see what it goes for on eBay now, and I'm tempted to sell it, but I haven't even played it yet.
Yeah,
it's a 2-player game, but when you have a game group, it's hard to set up a 2-player game.
Right.
You guys do what you want. I'm going to play this. So I got to set it up one night. And a friend comes over. So, what out of all your old retro games, what would you recommend? What are still fun to play?
What gets played quite often retro wise is Hero Quest. I still play a lot of Hero Quest.
Did you get the new edition?
I did not get the new edition because there's no difference. Right. Is that what I understand? It's exactly the same thing.
More minis. They give you more minis. So like if it's the dwarf, you could be the female dwarf, you could be the male dwarf, you could be the female warrior. So you get more mini, and then there's a couple of extra character classes, and then all of the furniture is plastic miniatures. So it looks great, but the rules are the same.
I think that's why I don't. I'm not going to get the new copy. Yeah, I'm not missing anything. I still play, believe it or not, I still play Crossbows and Catapults. Remember Crossbows and Catapults?
Yeah, yeah. That's a great game. I got lots of nieces and nephews. That's we never actually play it. We just set it up and destroy it. I want to actually play it by the rules one day.
Well, Restoration Games, they just ran a Kickstarter. They're bringing it back with, it's like a game now.
Yeah, that's fun. There's so many games that I used to play as a kid. You Chopper Strike? Have you? Yeah.
Yeah, I have Chopper Strike
with the plastic board on
the double layer. Yeah.
Oh, that blew me away as a kid. I was like, wow, it's it simulates airplane, and you must have 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea with the spinny thing, and it knocks over all the Nautiluses.
Yeah, there's a couple of 20,000 League Under the Seas board games. I think I got 3 of them, I think, but I think there's 4 or 5 of them throughout the years.
Do you have that Yeti game where the big plastic Yeti makes?
Yep.
I used to try to hide in the Yeti's cave, and it never worked because I think he goes back after an attack. Yeah, I thought I was so clever.
Right. So the retro stuff doesn't make it out. I wouldn't say too often, but I do try. Whenever I have a game group over, I'd like to try at least one retro game that takes 20 minutes before we dive into the game of the night. I try.
So, what other modern games would you play?
Oh, modern day games I'm playing. So I mentioned Return to Dark Tower. I'm trying to get through the Lord of the Rings card game.
Okay.
I'm doing they have the Saga expansion. I'm on the Fellowship of the Ring.
That's a two-player game, right?
No, it's 1 to 4. It's Fantasy Flight's living card game.
Oh, okay.
So for those for your viewers out there that don't know what a living card game is, it's different than a collectible card game. The living card game, when you buy everything. So you don't have to chase any cards.
It's
so
not
you
like
have
Magic the Gathering where you buy in a pack, you don't know what you're getting.
Right.
You got better cards than me, you're gonna win.
Right. So
you got $1,000 to spend on eBay, you're gonna win.
Right. So with the living card game model is you get all the cards and you make a deck and you go out, and so in fact that's what's set up on my table right now is the Lord of the Rings card game. So I'm playing that a lot.
Are you into collectible? Do you play Magic?
No, I did play Magic when it first hit the market. I played Magic, and a funny story is so back in the day when it came out, correct me if I'm wrong, 94, 95?
Yeah, around there. Yeah.
Somewhere around there. It was really hard to get. And my wife at the time used to work at Target back then. And she called me on the phone and she goes, "Hey, that game that you were talking about, Magic the Gathering, it's here." I'm all like, "What?" So I drove over there and I bought a pack of starters and a booster. I bought them all. And as they were trying to scan it, it wasn't scanning. So they just said, "Okay, well, what's the MSRP?" So they just figured it out, and I paid, and I went on my merry way. But a couple days later, my wife had said that they got that by mistake, and it wasn't even in their system. So I got a bunch of, revised cards, and I'm sitting here making decks and showing people how to play. And back then, we didn't know the value of what it was, and I'm giving this stuff away. So now I shoot myself in the head for doing that because I could have made a lot of money.
I think the statute of limitations has worn off. I could tell my magic story. I lived out in Albuquerque, and my roommate, he worked in a distributor that distributed all the Magic cards in the Southwest. And he would go to work, and nobody's looking. He would get these cases and throw them out the window into a dumpster. And then at 2:00 in the morning, we would drive out there. He'd jump in the dumpster, and then we would go around to all the the Denny's. It was college. All the kids would play Magic. I'm talking this is like 93, 94, 95 when Magic first came out, and we were like the drug dealers of Magic. We'd show up, like, what do you want? What do you want? Line up! Don't crowd me, kid. And we would open up our jackets. We had Black Lotus cards. We had all because we didn't know the value of it either. and Jeff, he had I'm not even joking, like a pirate treasure chest, like an old fashioned. You'd see it in a Douglas Fairbanks movie, treasure. And we had all the cards sorted. And we'd go to the diners, people like, hey, yeah, the Magic guys are here. What do you want? And that we paid for rent on Magic cards. And I moved out of that house. And if you went down into the basement, there was a boiler room, and then there was a weird room with no floor. It was just dirt behind the boiler room. We hid the treasure chest back there, thinking that people were going to break in and steal it. And then I left it there, and Jeff moved out of that house like a year later. So finally, I was like, "Hey, Jeff, whatever happened to that magic? Oh, I thought you took them." I'm like, "So we want to go back to this house. I wonder if it's still there because it had like Black Lotus." I'd go on eBay, and I'm like, "Jeff, that treasure chest is worth like $200,000." He's like, "Don't tell me." He lives in Minnesota. I live in New York, and that house is in Albuquerque. So I haven't played since I left, because I'll be damned if I'm paying for Magic cards after.
Yeah. I would say every 3-4 years, I'll whatever the new set is, I'll buy a couple packs, and yeah.
It's a clever game, but I got to, I'm sure you could agree. I'm a comic book collector. I'm a board game collector. So I don't need an expensive collectible card game that, you need. And then every couple of years, the cards expire, and then you got to buy news. I like the living card game model. Like I could buy, like you said, I could buy the Lord of the Rings set. You could buy the Lord of the Rings set. You could be Sauron. I could be, and we're matched. I like that model. Speaking of which, now I'm looking over here. Have you ever played a game called Sorcerer?
It sounds familiar.
It's to me, that's my Magic. It's a box, and you buy the box, and it's a 2-player, 2 magicians fighting. And you set up like 3 little areas, and if you win 2 out of the 3 areas, you win the game. It's very similar to Magic, but it's legally distinct. And you fight, and then every couple of years they'll come out with an expansion. So you can have everything that I could have, but you don't have to buy anything. As long as I buy it, me and you can play. I like that. That's how I get my Magic fix.
Right. That wasn't like well, some people say that was like Richard Garfield's best game, but I enjoyed Netrunner. I don't know if you remember Netrunner.
I never played Netrunner. One of the guys from my old group, he loved it. He loved Netrunner, and he was explaining it to me. And I don't know if it was too complicated for me at the time, or he was just explaining it poor. But I was just like, you ever in a game teach when the guy's just like, and you just like, let's just go on to something else.
Yeah, I've been there. Trust me.
Yeah, he did. And he tried to play that one, and I couldn't grasp it. And then the other one was the 5 Rings. Legend of the 5 Rings.
Legend of the 5 Rings. I never dabbled into that one, but that's another collectible card game.
To whip my butt. So I was just like, yeah, that was fun. As I'm like wiping away. So, what other games do you play in your game group? Like, culture a lot. That seems to be a game.
Yeah, we do a lot of the Days of Wonder games.
Those are great games.
Yeah, we're playing Heat a lot. Heat is a really great game. Have you played Heat?
Everybody loves it.
Everybody loves it, and it sold out, and it was hard to get for a while. Luckily, I got my copy on a whim. I just saw it, and I go, I'm not really into racing games, but I just picked it up anyway. But it's a very clever racing game. So we do a lot of the Days of Wonder games. I'm playing a lot of Everdale right now. Have you played Everdale?
I spent like the past 3 weeks putting stickers on everything, and that came in that gigantic box. Yeah.
Did you have you played Far Shore yet? The new one that came out, the standalone?
No. Is it good?
I don't know why it's so expensive. It's $100.
Yeah, that's probably why I did. Because I paid, I don't know how much I paid for that Everdale coffin-sized box, and I haven't played it yet, so I'm not spending another $100.
Yeah, it's I keep seeing it at my local game store, and I'm all like, it's a little spendy right now. But I don't, all the Starling games are expensive for whatever reason.
They're fun games. That was another game I remember that my buddy was teaching it to me, and I was just like, this doesn't make sense. But then after like a round or two, I was like, okay,
yeah,
this is pretty good, but it's hard to teach. You know,
Yeah, it is. It is hard to teach. It takes definitely a couple of turns for anybody to
right?
grasp it.
Yeah, I was like, I hate this, and I'm trying to be polite. I'm trying to be polite, and then by the end of the game, I'm like, this was fun. I enjoyed. I didn't win the first game, but I've since won. But speaking of hard to teach games, have you ever played Root?
I have not, and I've seen it before. Like I said, at my local game, so I see it all the time. And people say that it's a great game, but I've never tried that.
I love it, but man, you are like Root. It's an asymmetrical game for people who are watching, meaning every player has different rules, different objectives, and a different. Well, you got to get 30 points, but other than that, it's completely different. So it is just. Okay, let me teach you how to play. You sit there and be bored while I teach him how to play. Let me teach her how to play. You guys sit here and be bored. And it is. But once you get it down, if you could get my dream is to one day have 8 players, because there's you can play 8 or 9 factions and just sit down and play the Twilight Imperium of Root, just everybody. And it's funny because it's cute little forest animals, but it's a war game. Make no mistakes. It is a nasty, mean war games with the cutest little animals. I guess that makes it palatable to people who don't like war games.
Right. For big groups, I think I haven't had anything bigger than 6. I like playing Dice Throne.
Oh, that's great. You've played with 6?
Yeah, it's three on 3. It's just a team thing. It's fun.
Well, that's cool. I didn't know you could play with up to 6. I've only played it 1-on-1, and it's a great game.
I know. Yeah, that's what most people consider it a 1 versus 1, but there's variant rules that will accommodate more players. And I have literally everything from Dice Throne. I have it.
Yeah.
I even kickstarted the X-Men Dice Throne.
Oh yeah, I think I got it. Is it over? I think
it's over. Yeah.
Oh, I missed it. But I have everything up to the X-Men. I have everything out now. I don't have the X-Men, so it looks like I'll be getting it on the after. Right. But Dice, for those of you who don't know, it's like a Yahtzee fighting game. I'm fighting you, you're fighting me. You roll the dice, but each character has their own dice and special abilities. It's a lot of fun. I'm sure it makes no sense to people who aren't into board games, but I could teach that game to anybody in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It's a good. Speaking of, have you ever played Unmatched?
Yeah, that's another restoration game.
Another restoration game. Yeah. That is another game. I remember this one woman came because it was a meetup, so our game groups was open to the public. And this one woman came. She was a housewife. She was literally I never played a game since I was 9 years old, playing Monopoly with my grandparents. And she just sat down. She ordered a beer, and I taught her Unmatched. And it's 1-to-1, but you could play with more people. And me and her, she was whooping me around that board. Either she was a shark or she was just a natural. But that is a great game for new people.
Yeah. Did you pick up Tales to Amaze yet?
Yes.
You
like you can see. It's right there. Trust me. Okay. I haven't played it yet.
Yeah, that's again. If you don't know what Unmatched is you play against somebody, you battle against somebody. But with Tales to Amaze, they changed it into a cooperative game. So you're battling the board, either Mothman on one side or Martians on the other side. So that's another fun cooperative game.
Yeah, what I like about Unmatched is it's there's famous literature characters, you could be the Invisible Man or like Sherlock Holmes, or you could be Dracula. And now they have Marvel characters like Daredevil. It's more street level. I couldn't imagine them ever doing an Unmatched Superman. It would just play
the DC license. I don't know. I guess that's a pretty hard one to get.
But the Marvel license, they don't have Wolverine and the high-powered characters.
They just ended their relationship with. There's no more Marvel sets coming out anymore. They did announce a Witcher set. They're coming out with a Witcher set.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. But as far as Marvel, no more. I think the Spider-Man, I think it's called Brains and Brawn. I think that was the last Marvel Unmatched set.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see you got Smash Up behind you.
Yep.
How do you like Yeah, now you do it.
I don't know which way to go. I mean, it's an okay game.
Yeah.
Take a couple decks, throw them together, and just fight your friends, you know.
That was like a magic replacement for me. Like, for those of you who don't know, it's the whole concept of Smash Up is you got all of these different genres. So ghosts and pirates, and you shuffle them together. Now I'm ghost pirates, and go. But I that game, for whatever reason, seems to start the most arguments out of any game I've ever played. So I'm very particular with who I play with. You know,
And I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I got my Monday night game group. We are like the friendliest group of people, so we'll play Smash Up, and even then we get like, you know.
Yeah, I think I only have that one set. I don't. I know there's tons of expansions out there. I think I just have that one.
I collected them all, and I'm like, I don't even really play it that much. So going forward, I'm done. I'm looking at all your games. Is that Western Legends up on the top above your head?
Western up
above Big Score.
The Big Score. Where are we? Saloon Tycoon.
Oh, okay. I saw cowboy hats and I couldn't read it. Oh, I never.
Yeah, I enjoy the genre of the Old West. I have Gold West, Pioneer Days. I got a lot of Western themed games.
You have Western Legends?
I don't have Western Legends.
I always like a basis of comparison. I always say it's the Twilight Imperium. For those of you who don't know, Twilight Imperium is this gigantic space game that you could play like 10 people, and it's like whenever I have it once a year, maybe we do a Twilight Imperium weekend, and all day Saturday we'll come over at noon and we'll literally be playing till 1 o'clock in the morning. I'll have a lunch. It's like I'll call in and cater food, and then my wife will make a dinner. We take dinner breaks, but you have to be into it. Now, Western Legends is the Twilight Imperium of cowboy games, and it's a sandbox game, so you can go off and, you know, somebody could win really fast, because if somebody becomes a bad guy and they go off and rob people, they're going to get points every turn. So you got to go out and stop them, because if you're just a gold miner over here, which you could get a lot of points, that guy is going to get so. It's like sooner or later you're just like, uh-oh, Frank's winning. We got to take him out. And if you don't, so it could last a long time because you team it up. But it's so much fun. Talk about getting into it. You it's like a story. It's like a movie after you're done.
Yeah. So again, those really, really long games. That's just not my thing, not my bag.
I remember in college we used to play games like we used to play this game, College Conquest of the Empire. It was like the next step up from Risk, and now we'd play like till 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, and yelling and screaming. And
that was an old Milton Bradley game, correct? From the Game Master series.
Yeah, those games really got me hooked onto games like Broadsides, Battle Cry, and you know, and Conquest of the Empire. I think Bushido or Swords.
Shogun. Shogun.
Like that. Yeah. I love those games. You know, that to me that was the first time that I'm like, oh my God, it's not just roll the dice and move. You know, there was, you know, because Risk
wasn't Axis and Allies part of that group.
Yes, Fortress America, Axis and Allies. Yeah. I'd sit there for 6 hours, you know, playing a game. But now, you know how it is. As an adult, you don't have time to do.
You don't have time.
The spirit is willing, the flesh is weak, you know.
Right.
And then getting other guys, it's just like, oh, I got to go take my kids to school. I got to do this, you know. So we you know, Twilight Imperium is like a once a year event, you know. And I got this all play game table that I can't wait, you know, break it out. We'll play. So speaking, you said you played the Days of Wonder. As you can see, I could talk forever. The Days of Wonder. Have you ever done the Memoir 44, but the Overlord?
I have not. That's one of the ones that I have not gotten. I have almost every Days of Wonder game. That's one of the few that I don't own. The Memoir 44.
I love when it's a World War II game, you know, but it's a beast to set up because you got to put, you know, the terrain down, and then it's like a half-hour game, and then, you know, you spend 40 minutes setting up the game, and
you spend more time setting it up than playing.
Yeah, but they have a scenario where you can play 8 people, 3 people, you know, one commander.
Wow.
In each of the 3, you know, there's 3 fields of battle, so there's one commander in each field, and then 3 on the other side, and then a general who you get the cards and you allocate the cards to people. I'm dying to play that. That would just be so much fun. Have you played Cleopatra in the Society of Architects?
I have, and I even bought the new version also,
Which one do you like better?
the original.
Yeah, I, I'm so disappointed. I was like, oh, this game is so good. It's so ripe for it. Oh, deluxe. But you know what? Days of Wonder made some of the best games.
Yeah, and I think that they still make some of the best games.
Right.
Days of Wonder is one of those companies that they just come out with one big game a year.
Right.
So that's why everybody's excited. Everybody's excited about it.
Yeah. Like, have you played the Days of Wonder Coliseum?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is awesome. And then
I don't know if they reprinted it or somebody else did, but I bought it and it wasn't as good as the original.
Oh, I that's one of my favorite games. And it's funny because it has everything I hate. I hate auctions. I hate roll and move, and that's what it has, roll and move, because the Caesar rolls it, and you got to bid for auction. But it is so much fun. And if you get into it, like telling the story of the shows that you're putting on, it's a Coliseum game, but it's not gladiators. You are literally like an impresario putting on a show to keep the masses into. So you got to get assets. You got to make money. It is so much fun. But the reprint, it just
it fell flat.
Yeah. So do you still do segments on the Dice Tower?
Well, see, and Tom gets. I go to the conventions. I go to Origins. I go to Gen Con. I go to PAX Unplugged. And Tom always makes it a point to come and find me. And he's all, when you coming back, man? I do. I so badly I want to come back. It's, I used to do a segment once every other week, so twice a month.
Yeah.
And even then I couldn't keep up. But kudos to the people that do it every week and pump out a lot of content, man. That's hard work.
Yeah.
To make a 2-3 minute video. Me personally, it's hard work.
And it's fun. You got your parents acting in skits, and your parents are the most charming people. I think your dad stole the segment.
My father, he is not acting when he's in these videos. He is literally upset. He doesn't want to be there. My mom is all for it, but my dad those reactions are real. He doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to do it. So the mad look on his face, that's real. That's real.
The first time he came on, I cracked up, and you see your segment come on, you hear that music, and his dad's not on. Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, they're the real stars of the show.
And you bring him to PAX Unplugged. You'd have people on. You'd be autographing.
Right.
Disgruntled face.
So back to Tom always pestering me. He in fact, the last time I saw him at Gen Con, he goes, "Hey, didn't you used to do segments for the Dice Tower?" I'm all, yeah, I know. Okay, I'm trying. But yeah, definitely, I think my New Year's resolutions for 2024 is to make a comeback with a vengeance.
Good. Because a lot of those games, you're the only person talking about them. These old school. There's another guy whose name escapes me. He does the IPs, so he'll do like Gremlins, but you're doing, does Gremlins match the
Oh yeah, I know a guy. I forgot what his name is too. He does the segment does the game match the IP,
right?
And most of his games are older games.
Yeah, but you do like older Milton Bradley games, the flat old boards,
Yeah, so definitely for people out there that are watching Dice Tower, Board Game Breakfast, because I started on Board Game Blender.
That's right.
And then, when they canceled we almost made it to 100 episodes, and I was on almost all of them. Not every single one of them, but most of them. And then they gave everybody an opportunity to transfer to Board Game Breakfast. So then I went over to Board Game Breakfast, and then I think 2022 is that whole year. I don't think I did a single one. And 2023 I did or this year I did maybe one or two, but 2024 is going to be my year. I'm going to make a comeback. You heard it here first.
I got a scoop. I'll never forget. One of my favorite segments you did was I forget if it was an April Fool's or Halloween. Everybody did everybody else's.
It was a Halloween mashup.
Yeah, and you did the girl
artsy robots. She did her segment was she did a craft or like a dessert, and right. I did one also with ice cream, and I made it look like Cthulhu.
Yeah, and you were goofing around.
And I did this. Yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
I stole that move from her when she stopped doing it. I asked her. I said, "Hey, can I do your pointing?" She goes, "Sure."
Yeah, artsy robot. Yeah, yeah. It seems like Tom always seems to be changing up everything. Like he's not one to just rest on his laurels and fall into a rut. It seems like every 2 years or so he just upheavals everything, and I get mad and I'm like, Tom, why are you doing this? And then I'm like, oh, this is great, right. And his numbers go up and the views go up and he's hiring more people. I gotta say, like. I met Sam Healy a few times, and he was just a great guy. And it's funny because he remembered my name from one time to another. He's like, "Hey, John, how you doing? Sit down and I thought he was just being polite the first time, and then when he left, I understand he left for family reasons. Right? I'm like, this is the end of the Dice Tower. I'm like, and then they got Mike DeLisio and Camilla and Chris Yee, and it's like the golden years are starting all over again. It's unbelievable how he reinvents that show,
right?
And I don't know if he purged a lot of contributors or if a lot of contributors just.
I think it just the contributors it just runs its course. Right. They got other things going on. They get bigger, and they're doing their own thing. I never had my own YouTube. Most of these contributors have their own YouTube channel. I'm not saying every single one of them, but most of them do. I was one of the few that wasn't promoting anything else. I was just doing it just to show off my my rather large collection of games.
So how did you get started then? That's
Well, so again, 2015, the beginning of the year, the Dice Tower runs a Kickstarter every year for their operating costs for the year. Yeah. One of the stretch goals back then was if we reach this level of money, I can hire Z Garcia as a full-time employee.
Right, I remember
that. So they reached that goal. They hired him as a full-time employee. And he had put out, I heard through the grapevine that he was going to start a new show like Board Game Breakfast, which was called Board Game Blender. So I was thinking to myself, I said, wow, wouldn't it be cool to be on the show? So out of a whim, I just went on Board Game Geek and found his profile. And I messaged him and I said, hello, my name is Asdruval Cifuentes, and I have this crazy idea. I heard you're going to be starting a new show. I gave him my pitch, and I hit send, and then I said to myself, I'm never going to hear from him ever again. So within an hour, I believe he messaged me, and he goes, "Hey, that sounds like a fantastic idea. Why don't you?"
It's
Yeah. So why don't you shoot me a 3-minute video? And he gave me a Dropbox to put it in. He said, give me a 3-minute video and we'll see what happens. So I said, awesome. Okay. So the game that I decided to showcase was Waterworld with Kevin Costner. So that was the board game that I made this test video. And it took me, I believe it was like 8 hours of shooting, 8 hours of a 3-minute video. I kept messing up. And after it was all said and done and I watched it back and I'm all like, this is the worst idea ever. But, I sent it to him anyway. And again, I thought to myself, I'm never going to hear from this guy ever again. This is a horrible idea. And a couple of days later, he goes, hey, congratulations, you're on the show. And I'm all like, what? And then that's when that's where it all started. Is that little segment. And I go to these conventions, and a lot of people come up to me, and hey, you're from the Dice Tower. I'm all like, yeah. And I get people taking the pictures with me. I hand out stickers at conventions, and just a bunch of swag. So it's been really fun.
Yeah, the Dice, people complain about the internet, they complain about YouTube, but the Dice Tower is consistently fun. It's consistently pleasant. Everybody there is wonderful. There's no negativity. Tom is very approachable. I met Tom Bassel, the guy, the honcho of the Dice Tower. He doesn't remember my name, but he remembers my face from going to the convention many times. Just a great group of people. I met Rob Oren from going to the conventions, and talked to him a few times. And I every time I go to the Dice Tower convention, I search him out. And we talk because he's a comic book guy and a board game
and a board gamer.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun, to the point we went 5 years in a row, and then when COVID happened, they canceled it. And then we moved and bought a house. We haven't been back since, to the point where my wife is upset because we have other couples that we hang out with, for 5 years in a row. Last year we got a suite with all 6 of us, lived in a suite.
That's exactly the same thing that happened to me. I bought a house, and then it's like, man, now I got more responsibilities. How am I supposed to, shoot these videos? But I think things have now, kind of, I got into a rhythm now. So hopefully I can insert my video making in there once again.
Yeah. I'd like to, I fixed up a house. We spent all our excess money building stuff. You know how it is when you buy a house. But I'm hoping now I want to try the Dice Tower cruise. I've never been on a cruise, and I already love the Dice Tower people. So
that would be the next step. Yeah, that's
for those of you who don't know what we're talking about. It's an actual cruise. Yes, out of Florida. I don't know where it goes. I don't care where it goes, because it's just like a week of playing board games on a boat with endless supplies of cheeseburgers. How
you play board games, and then you also do the activities that the boat offers. You go to like ports of call, and you go out and explore whatever, but then you come back and you play board games.
Yeah, and one thing I found about board games is through myself. I ran like a little miniature board game convention that we called John Con, and then we had game groups. It's that it's easy to meet friends. It's easy to meet strangers because you're all focused on this game. So like, the shy people, the introvert, I'm extroverted. It never bothers me, but my wife could sit down and we're focused on the game. Here's the rules of the game, and then you chit chat, and then you slowly come out of your shell. It's wonderful. I think board gaming is a great act. If anybody is an interest, because a lot of comic book people are it's a solo activity. We sit at home, we read our comic books, you know what I mean? But board games, it's a nice bridge between the introvert and the extrovert. You sit down, you don't have to talk about politics, you don't have to talk about religion. It's not like a first date where there's an interview. Like, what do you do for a living? You could sit there and you could be a pirate for an hour and a half.
Right. And most people that I introduced into board games didn't even realize that they still make board games, or modern day board games. They remember, Monopoly, Sorry,
How many times you asked that? Like Monopoly?
Every single time. You play board games like Monopoly? I hate Monopoly. Yeah, but board games are definitely not what they used to be. They're very accessible, and they're all over the place. And I think
and you could get. Do you want a light game? Do you want to like a long Twilight Imperium, or somewhere in the middle?
Any genre you can think of, they probably got a board game on it,
and even genres you never would think of.
Right.
I remember, like what you said, board games. Before I met my wife, I'm married now for 15 years, so this must have been about 17 years ago. I went on a first and last date with the girl, and she says, "Oh, every Thursday I go to a board game group. You want to come?" And I was like, "Board games? If only I knew." Now,
yeah, you probably said, "What are we, 9 years old?"
Board games, are cheesy, but back then, I'm trying to think. It probably was like pandemic and stuff was out.
Yeah, right.
It's funny because after COVID, I started up my game group again in a new town, and I was like, "Oh, this is a fun game. This is easy." Like I always bring easy games to teach, easy games to play.
Right.
I don't know. Some people are just like, hey, never tried it. So I brought Pandemic, and I brought it out of the bag, and everybody just looked at me like, are you crazy? COVID, everybody's leaving the house and you want to play Pandemic? I was like, oh, I guess I didn't think of it.
Come on, I believe that when COVID hit, I think the original Pandemic, their numbers, they sold out a lot of stuff during that time. Yeah, they kind of capitalized on it.
It's a great game. It's a cooperative game. For those of you who don't know, meaning if Asdruval and I are playing, we're on the same team, defeating the board. And I remember that concept telling my friend Jimmy, his daughter was a little kid at the time, and I brought Mice and Mystics over. I'm like, it's like a Dungeons and Dragons game, but there's no game master. The game is the game master, and we're all defeating the game. And he was just like, he couldn't believe it until he's like, you're overselling this. This is nonsense.
Right.
And he was like, oh my God, because he played Hero Quest with me. I was like, just like imagine Hero Quest, but the game itself controls the monsters.
And Pandemic, you lose more than you win.
When was the first time you won Pandemic?
Oh my gosh! When I first bought the game, we couldn't win it because we were playing with all the epidemic cards. All the like heroic level or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we kind of scaled it down a little bit. And then we eventually won. But I think it was a whole year before I actually won that game.
Well, cooperative games are notoriously hard because if you beat them right away, then whatever. But I remember Pandemic was just like, okay, this is how you play. You're going to be this. You got to cure the diseases. You don't have to eradicate. You okay? And flip the. Oh, we lost.
Just that fast. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, we lost. Okay. Okay. That was a learning game. Okay. Let me shuffle these cards. Okay. You want to move over there? Oh, and you don't want to tell people what to do, so you just sit there going like, you know what I mean?
Right.
In cooperative games, that's a big problem sometimes. So
you get one guy that's the alpha player and is basically telling everybody what to do.
Yeah, I remember the very first time I went to the Dice Tower, I played a level 9 Omega Protocol, I think it was called. It was like you're Space Marines and you're on a ship. I might have not played because one guy was just like, okay, go here. And I'd move my piece. Okay, play this card. I was like, did this game end anytime soon? Like this is terrible. And right then, I'm glad I played because I realized I did that to people. And I knew how it felt. So I said, I'm never going to, and I tell people, I played Pandemic. I beat Pandemic a few times, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut unless you specifically ask me. And I'm like this, though. You ever play Zombicide?
I have not.
Oh,
I've seen it, but I don't own it, and I've never played it before.
It's Night of the Living Dead. It's 28 days. It's all the zombie games, and it's another game that's gonna take an hour to set up, and it's probably gonna be about four hours depending upon the situation. But I've never had more like stand up and cheer and high fiving and yelling and screaming, and you don't open that door. I'm opening the door because when you open the door, it launches all like a cascade of don't open that door. No, I'm opening the door. Don't open it. And then you open the door, and if we lose, it's your fault. It's so much fun. And that's the kind of game like my older brother, as much as I'm into comics, he's into horror movies. So his kids will come over and play Zombicide because it's they're not being nerdy. It's horror movies, So
right.
It's a great game.
I think I saw at my local game store Marvel Zombicide.
Yes. Yeah, there's a Marvel Zombicide game where your heroes fighting zombies, or you could flip the script and you could be the zombies fighting the heroes. I haven't played that one yet. I'm looking over there. I got don't tell my wife, I must have spent like $700 on every Zombicide product. And I'm looking, I'm like, I probably only played 25% of them. So I just put in good conscience back another, because to get everything, because it's either all in or all out. And if you're all in on Marvel Zombicide, that was like another $400 or $500.
There's a lot of content out there for that Marvel Zombicide.
And now they just did DC Deceased. It's Zombicide DC. I'm like,
oh geez,
I can't. That's and you've got to be like me. Are you running out of room?
I am. I'm running out of room. My storage facility is completely filled to the walls, up and down, and my house is running out of room.
Yeah,
I don't have any. I don't have like any pictures of stuff. It's just like shelves of board games. That's it.
Yeah, here. I might as well show this. This is shelves and shelves of board games all over the place.
Are you in a basement?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm in the basement of a house. Yeah, we bought a small house, and when I told the real estate lady, I said I want either garage or a basement so I could convert it into a game room, and she's like, okay. And then, of course, real estate people don't listen to you. She showed me a house with neither, and I wanted to fight her. I was so angry. So she saw it in my face because, again, I have no poker face. So I said to her, if you don't show me a house with a basement or a garage, I'm going to go home. I'm leaving. And so she's like, well, there's a house around the block. And I don't even think she knew. She was just like, there's a house around, and it's this house. And I just, you could see the garage. I'm like, oh, look at this garage. It's a little small. It's nice. And and then we showed the house and we opened up a door. And I'm like, is there a basement? And it was like a disgusting dungeon. Have you ever been in an unfinished basement? I was like, oh my God. And my wife's like, you like this? I'm like, oh my God, we're buying this house. It's got the garage and the basement, and I spent 6 months sheetrocking, painting, spackling, drop ceilings, I'm a construction worker, and I hired a guy to help me out. And I tell people I'm never leaving,
This is it.
I'm going on vacation. Like, what are you doing? I'm sitting in my basement. Why do I want to go anywhere else? Why?
Exactly.
I wish you live close. Do you live anywhere near New York?
No, I live on the West Coast. I live in Oregon.
Oh, I was gonna say you
other side of the country.
you can't possibly be any farther. Oh, I just want to play games. It's it's everything I ever wanted. I turned this whole basement into a board game room. You come to work. I'm a construction worker every day. You meet a new plumber who finishes something and he moves on. Then you meet a new car. I'm like showing him pictures. This is my game room. Do you live anywhere near me to come over and play board games?
Nice.
It's one of the nice things about board games, and I'm sure you can understand. You need other people.
Yeah.
You need other people because there are solo games, and that is a weird concept to Americans that there's solo board games. Speaking of which, I'll get back to that later. But for the most part, you need other people. And now I have 3 game nights a week. Mondays, Thursdays, and sometimes Saturdays. We come over, we get pizza, we hang around and play different games. But I'm always teaching the games. And I
think for myself, because I'm also always teaching the games, I rarely win a game because I'm busy making sure that people are doing their turns correctly, where I don't really, where I really don't concentrate on myself. So I rarely win at all. Everybody else is winning.
It's funny that you said that because I know exactly what you talk about. Because I'm like, first off, I'm going to teach the game, and then I'm going to crush this guy by 47 points. You know what I mean? Then they can be like, well, I didn't really like that game. So like, but then I'm also watching. Like, is everybody having fun? Are you having fun? You have, how bad does this annoy you when you teach the rules and then somebody just grabs the rule book and starts reading it?
I keep the rule book away from everybody. I don't want anybody to grab the rule book from me.
Yeah. Just wait 10 more seconds. Do you have a routine for teaching?
I really don't. I'll prep the night before I have a game night. I'll make sure that I'll play one game that kind of everybody already knows how to play, and then I'll introduce another game. So I'll prep the night before, reading the rules, just making sure, because every game that I own and every game that I play, I have a vague idea of what's happening,
right?
But just to brush up on the rules, Right. I know how to exactly, yeah. I know how to play every game, but just vaguely, and then I gotta just skim the rules real quick. So I'll do that the night before, and just basically go through a turn, and then just let everybody loose after that, basically.
Now, my nightmare scenario is sitting down. Okay, yeah, I'll play the game, and then they just take the rule book. Okay, page 1. This is a game, and like, you don't know how to play? No, I just got the game out of the library, and we're going to learn together. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to the bathroom. To me, that is torture. Look, I remember one of my friends. What was it called? King Arthur game by now I can't even think of the name, but he's famous for complicated games.
Is it from Days of Wonder?
No. It's a Mayfair game, but it's King Arthur or Merlin or something like that, and I don't know. But he's famously overcomplicated, and we were going to learn this game as we played. I never wanted to beat up everybody so bad; it was excruciating. I wanted to ask you about solo games. Have you ever played Final Girl?
I haven't. I've seen it, and I guess it's very popular.
Oh, it's awesome. I never thought a solo game would be fun, but Final Girl has first it's wonderfully produced. You know, a Final Girl is, for those of you who watch this later, she's the last survivor, like Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween, or the girl whose name escapes me in the first Friday 13th. So she's the last girl who lives when Jason or the monster is chasing, and she's the one who defeats Nightmare on Elm Street or whatever. So that term is a Final Girl. So, and it's great because the box looks like a VCR, and there's modules. They look like VCR tapes, and you pull them out, and it's modular. So I'm going to take this location and this monster. So it's Nightmare on Maple Avenue, or it's camping at Maple Avenue, and so you can play different styles and everything. It is a lot of fun.
And it's only a single player game?
Yeah, it's only a solo game. I'm sure somebody somewhere has figured out how to play with two people, but I mean, my wife will sit over here. We could play together, but it's, one character. It's
I'm gonna have to check that out.
The season 1, season 2, and it's one of the few games I'm like, oh, I'm getting everything sight unseen. I don't even want to see the promos for it because I already know season 1 is so. And I didn't even get to season 2 yet. It's still in shrink wrap right over there.
Yeah, I think I saw the big box that you can buy, like everything with it.
I'm a freak when it comes to these big boxes. Like I got the Everdell, like I said. It's like I spent like 3 weeks putting stickers on every piece. I just got the big box of I can't even think of the name of it now. The tower defense game.
Castle Panic.
Yeah, I got the big box of Castle Panic, and I opened the box. I'm like, and I just closed the box because it's intimidating. Why'd I do this to myself? I'm like, I'm going to paint them all because my friend bought it and says, yeah, you got to paint them before you snap them together and everything. I'm like, I'm not going to paint. There's 9 billion in that game. And then if I snap them together, it's whatever.
Yeah.
Do you paint minis?
I don't. I don't think I've painted not one mini. I got a lot of miniatures, but they're all unpainted.
Yeah.
I'm not very artistic.
Oh, well, good fool. You see, to edit these, I can't edit to save my life, and your segments are pretty artsy.
Well, my brother is the editor. I shoot the video raw in one continuous segment, and then I send it over to him, and he edits all my stuff.
Oh, okay.
He's the graphic designer. He's designed all my merchandise. He's done all the graphics. I'm just the talent. He's the brains. He's the brains behind everything else.
That's great. Yeah.
I'm not very technically savvy myself.
We played I'm into table like Dungeons and Dragons. Do you play any games like that?
I dabbled a little bit into it, and again, when I was younger, I played Dungeons and Dragons. It's storytelling stuff is not really.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I played it in the past.
So me and my friends, I've one of my friends. We've been playing since 1982. So and then since COVID, it's just been him and I am playing. And as much as I enjoy it, it's always fun to get like a sweet spot of like 4 players. So when I moved out here, I met a bunch of guys, and we came. And then one of them is a photographer, so he videotaped us playing and edited it down with graphics. Like, so when a monster comes out, it pops up. I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. So that just came out. It's called Villains and Vigilantes. It's a superhero role playing game.
I played that one before.
Oh, you
back
played
in the day? Back in the day.
Yeah, I'm actually making a comic book based on some of my role playing superhero stuff. So
sweet.
Yeah, I'm a comic book freak. So, anything else you want to talk about? I try to keep these an hour. I find that people don't watch 6-hour videos, but they will watch an hour video.
You know, we could probably keep talking and talking and talking, but
you know,
I understand.
Yeah, I could talk for another 20 hours. My wife said, stop at an hour. You can see the people's faces. So.
Just watch for me, Board Game Breakfast on the Dice Tower, starting in 2024. I'm going to start trying to get back into it. If you ever see me, I'm at Origins and Gen Con and PAX Unplugged every year, usually with the Restoration Games booth. I'm on their demo team. Stop by and say hi. I'm the guy with the big old glasses and probably a white T-shirt. You know, my spiel, my stick.
Yep.
But yeah, that's about all I got going on.
And PAX Unplugged, that's in Philadelphia, right?
Philadelphia, yeah.
Yeah, I got to make it to that one. I have no excuse.
That's not. Yeah, that's pretty close to New York. It's like right next door.
Yeah, it's right next door. I have friends that go every year. I should make an effort to go. So maybe I'll see you PAX Unplugged. I don't know if I'm going to make it to Gen Con or anything.
Or Origins, you don't make it out that way.
Where is Origins?
Ohio.
Oh, Ohio. I might. I got friends in Ohio.
That's Columbus, I believe. Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I got friends right in Columbus, Ohio. I got a place to stay. Brian, I'm coming. But thanks a lot. Retro Board Gamer on Dice Tower. He does segments during Board Game Breakfast, and they're a lot of fun. I watch it. I've been a fan. I've reached out because I love the content that you put out. I get a kick out of these old games. Some of them I'm like, oh my God, I remember that. I had that. And that was a lot of fun. So, well, you got any sneak games that are coming up that you want to make?
Any what?
Any video? Have you ever done the sinking of the Titanic?
I did. I did a Titanic one before.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thanks a lot for showing up. I appreciate this. Was a lot of fun, and I have to stop myself because I talk to people until they're like looking at the wrist. I gotta go. So, so thanks a lot. I had a blast, and I hope you come back sometime in the future, and we'll talk about more board games.
Thank you for having me on.
Thanks a lot. How do I turn this off? Okay.